welcome to episode 52 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary with Catherine.
And Kristen, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, Kristen.
So, last week we discussed things that we enjoyed about reading books that were set in the normal world with no magical or fantasy elements, since we are doing Solitaire, and that falls under that category.
Mm-hmm.
This week we thought we would talk about the opposite. Like, what are some things we dislike about reading normal books with no magic and fantasy elements? Because both of us sort of are more fantasy lovers than like regular world lovers. So
Which, if you're listening, you probably know.
you could probably tell, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, we're going to talk about what we dislike about books set in the normal world, and I guess why we like fantasy more.
Yeah.
What's something that you dislike about books set in the normal world?
So I think my biggest issue with books that are set in like the normal world is how unrealistic they are to like everyday life. There's like fantasies, obviously I can buy into it because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the unrealistic. But like in books that are set in the real world and things are happening that are unrealistic, and I mean like people are just up and murdering people and it's like you get away with it, and then it's like just like they have jobs but they're never going to them. It's not like jobs are you're at your job 40 hours a week. That's so much time. But it's like not a big deal in these books. They're like, I worked and now I'm home and now I have energy to do things. And I'm like, I do not have energy after I work. But there's just so much. There's just so much that I find seems unrealistic about them that I can't buy into. And I don't know if it's just,
Yeah. And playing on top of that, when kids are in school or university or something and they never go and nobody cares.
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry. My parents would have cared if I was skipping school all the time.
Yeah.
If I was never doing homework, like they would have cared.
They would have noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That unrealistic stuff. And then it's always like, the parents are always dead. And I know that's also a fantasy trope as well, because you need to get rid of him to like have a story.
Yes. You need some sort of like sadness that they have to overcome.
Well, then, and also it's like if they don't have parents, it makes it easier for them to just like go off and have an adventure because no one's going to stop them.
True story.
But it just is like somebody would still have to take care of them. Somebody would still be their guardian. And I can't imagine that nobody is paying attention to this child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's my main one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. One that really gets me, and this is a really like a down one, is in fantasy books, you've always got this, like, obviously there's this big bad villain who wants to like take over the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
In like normal world books, you can't really have that. Like, there's not really that like big bad villain who's trying to take over the world.
No.
Right? Because that's just not logical and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
For like a book with no magic in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they always have to incorporate other really crappy elements to make a person bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a really cruel person who's doing awful things like assaulting people or like, you know, mistreating children or anything like that. And like maybe they're rapists or like, you know, maybe people are like homeless and like living in poverty. They have to obviously create a story the same way fantasy books do. But because they can't rely on the magic element, It
Hmm.
means that they have to focus on like the worst parts of humanity to make that like evil villain sort of thing.
Yes.
And not saying that that's not a good idea. I'm sure it like, it makes people see the worst parts of humanity, which is valid. However, I'm reading books for escapism. Like that's why I want to read books, is to escape into another world. And I just like having that other world be our world and having to acknowledge all the crappy parts of it when I know there are crappy parts of it. I don't need to be reminded.
Yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean? Like,
I completely get that. Yeah.
so to me, it's just like, it's ruining my escapism. It's
Yes.
ruining what books do for me.
Yeah. Which is like completely makes sense. Like I get there's books about it. Like I
Hmm.
think I said this last week. Like you can find books about everything, and I love that.
Yeah.
But it's just not what I'm looking for when I'm reading books. Like what I want is the escapism. And like
Yeah.
when things are too out of the like kind of going back to the unrealistic for me, when things like kind of jump out of the normal shit that you can get away with as a human, it
Yeah.
takes me out of the book for a second and I'm like, I
Yeah.
think I think you can't just murder people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I know you're gonna chat about a book in a second, but an example for me is The Fault in Our Stars by John
Mm,
Green.
that's
Um,
funny.
I know. But like literally at the end, like it's literally a book about two teenagers who connect because they both have cancer, and in the end they both die.
Yeah.
So like I understand that childhood cancer is a very real thing, but I
Hmm.
don't want to be reminded that there are children losing their lives.
Yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's not something that I want to read about. I don't want to be reminded that that type of sadness exists in the world and that people are legit going through that.
Yeah. And like
So,
obviously other people are looking for different things than we are in books.
100%.
And like when I read that book, I liked it. But I also have a bit of a different taste in books than you do. Like tiny bit. Like we mostly read the same things, but we do have
You
tiny
have a
differences.
wider, like, we do. I think you like all the stuff that I like and more. I'm just, I'm a
Picky.
bit more narrow and picky in my taste.
And that's fair though. Like you like what you like and
Uh,
it's good to know what you like cuz why else bother? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
but like I also feel like you're not afraid to read the sad books.
Yeah.
You don't mind a sad book.
I don't. No.
I mind a sad book. Do not give me a sad book. I
Yes.
don't want it. I
My
don't want to be sad.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. I don't mind a sad book. My issue is, and this is mostly in real world setting books, is books that it feels like nothing has changed from the beginning to the end. So, like, you start a book and you meet your characters, and then at the end, it's like they haven't changed, they haven't grown. They're not
Yeah.
there's no and like I don't need a pretty little bow at the end of my books because like we just said like that's not something that I care as much about, but just I've read books and I'm like, why? I know it's like chapters of somebody's life, it's like a chunk of someone's life, and that's what they're showing us, but I'm like, why did I read this? Because nothing has happened, and like I just ended and I'm more mad than anything because I'm not like I'm not sad, I'm not happy because they're together, I'm just like, what was the point of this? And like a, a few examples that I can remember just finishing and being like, I didn't get the point, and like I know maybe it just went over my head, which is also, that happens, completely fine. But Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, I read that because I loved Carry On, but that is like her only fantasy book I read, and I just felt like it I didn't get the point of it. and then Normal People by Sally Roney, and then Paper Towns by John Green. I just like I read them and they were chunks of someone's life, and like I want the story. I want the growth of character. I want somebody battling something, overcoming it, and then a finale. Like I want
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. And like I don't know. I also really dislike that I find a lot of a lot of the normal world books. Um, there's normally like rich people all the time.
That's so true.
Like, and maybe it's mostly romancy sort of books, but like they always do not have to worry about money, and it's
Yeah.
infuriating. It's like, um, I'm just thinking of that Nora Roberts book that you read, that one with the witches. And I
Yes.
know it's not, it isn't really normal world, but
Yeah.
Mrs. owns a friggin' coffee shop on an island that like
It's a coffee shop
needs
bookstore. And I'm like,
a
it's my
coffee shop bookstore that
dream.
needs it's an amazing dream. But there is no way that she makes enough money to stay open all year round on that tiny little island that that needs the tourism
Mhm.
industry in order to function as a like there's no way.
No,
I don't care who
100%
you
not.
are. It's not happening.
Yeah, but that's the magic,
So
I
like,
guess.
well, and like it
No, I get
and that's like the most recent one that I read by Nora Roberts. And Mrs. started a blog and ended up with thousands of listeners or thousands of like readers like a week into her blog.
Yeah,
Like, I'm sorry, no,
it's not how that works.
it's not how it works, but it's like instant success.
Yeah,
And then she writes like one book and all of a sudden she's getting published.
yeah.
It's just infuriating.
Well, yeah, I feel like that's part of the like unrealisticness of it because
Mm,
it's like
yes.
they don't work, but then they're super successful in their job. And you're like, you've never been to the office in this entire book. What happened in, oh, it's like baking. And we read, I know A Touch of Darkness isn't in this category. It's obviously fantasy, but in A Touch of Darkness, she was like, I love baking. That's my hobby. And you're like, we've read this entire book and you've never baked once. Like, how is that your hobby? I
Yeah.
just feel like that happens a lot in many books. Is it's like they're just, and I know books obviously can't show every single piece of somebody's life, and you don't really want them to, but I'm also like, I need a bit more for the realism. I just feel like books in the real world, so many more things kick me out of like being connected to the book. I'll read something and I'll be like, huh, that's not, it doesn't make sense to me. And then I'll just be like, well, I need to stop reading for a second. But like I find fantasy, I'll start reading and like nothing kicks me out. And then I'm like, oh shit, it's 2 a.m. Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't. It's the escapism, really.
Mhm.
Like it's just harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one's probably more of a romance thing, I guess. But like, well, most of the realism books I read are romance, but just men in romance books are always like perfect. And I know that's why we read them because it is the escapism. But it also is like, how are you ever going to find that type of relationship? It's not possible. And it's the same with fantasy. Like, obviously, this is an issue I have with both. The men are just like, I'm gonna kill for you. And, it's like, I don't really want that. I don't want that in real life. It's iffy. A lot of the situations in real life are iffy. Like I don't want you to kill for me. I also don't want you to be like stalkerish, but I'm going to read a book about that because I like reading about it, but I'm like in real life a lot of the things men do in books I would not be okay with.
Yeah, I just yeah, I think the whole men thing is they always try and make men so perfect. Like, he is rich, he is like fit and super handsome and like got a smoking body, but then he's also really genuine and caring, and he'll go to the soup kitchen and like he'll feed the homeless, and he'll give you all the space and boundaries you want. But then
Yeah.
when it comes time to have sex, he is hot, he is amazing in bed, and like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just like, really, dude, like this person doesn't, these people don't exist.
Yeah. And like,
So
yeah. And like, I love Jeff to pieces and he is amazing.
mhm.
But like, relationships have ups and downs in general. And they're not like, well, I guess it's like my issue with most books. Obviously, they need their like third act issue where the couple's like,
Yeah.
we're not going to be together. I'm like,
Mm,
that doesn't really happen. We would just have a conversation. Like, it's just, oh, that part
yeah.
kills me in books. But that is just a book thing.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
still read them. I still love them. So,
As long as they're fantasy.
yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'll also like, I'll read all the romance ones too, because that's where it always is. But like, it still bothers me. And again, I
Yeah.
love my husband, but like, the idea of like a perfect person doesn't exist. Like, I love my husband, but I know that there are things that bother me. Like, he's
Mhm.
he's got quirks, and I've also got quirks. Like, it's never going to be like, you're never going to be with a perfect person.
No, exactly. And if you were, that would just make you hate yourself, really, if you like think about it. Like, if you were with somebody that was absolutely perfect and then you had a day where you were like, oh my God, I can't for the life of me clean the kitchen or something, you'd be like, oh, but he does all this stuff and now I hate myself. So like, is that any better? I don't know.
Um so I guess we're going to get into it. This is just a heads up. We are not a spoiler free zone, and things might get a little saucy. And actually, I will say, probably the sauciest of all the episodes for Solitaire is this one,
Yeah.
in the very, very little sauce.
It's true.
So this week we are reading chapters 10 to after the epilogue, I guess. Last week, as just a refresher, um, Tori had a hectic week, I'll say.
Yeah.
Um, um, they go to the solitaire party, and even though Ben had that big whole fight with Charlie, Becky still chose to make out with him against a tree, and that really pissed Tori off, obviously, and she flipped her lid at her. um Her and Michael have like some on again off again issues of like, it seems like this is normal for them. Like,
Mm.
they're friends, but then they get mad at each other, then they're friends again, and then they get mad at each other. And
It's
um
very high school, though, to
it,
be honest.
I guess. um she ends up going with Nick and Charlie to this concert, and then Solitaire pulls a prank out there, shooting fireworks off everywhere, and that really like injured a lot of people, Tori included. She almost died. A firework was headed right for her face, and the only thing that saved her was her jumping in the river. Michael had to yell at her to do it though. So, um, and then her and Michael get out of the river, and she's like cuddling into him for warmth, and they say some really sweet things to each other before she passes out. I'm assuming from cold, from
Hypothermia.
shock, all the things.
Yeah.
Which brings us to now.
What's
Um,
happening now, Kristen?
I'll tell you.
Thank you.
So, um, it's the next day at this point. Tori says that she does remember what happens the night before, but it's a little bit like almost like an out of body experience. She says it's like she doesn't, it's not like it's her. But she says that so she passed out in Michael's arms, and she woke up a little bit later and just runs away.
Like you do. Why not?
And I just, like, I know that it's not meant in a funny way, but literally I just picture it in my brain of like a girl like passed out in a guy's arms as he's like cradling her gently and like stroking her hair, and then all of a sudden she like wakes up, sits up, looks around, and then just boots it without saying a word. And
Sprinting.
it's just funny.
Yep.
Anyway, so she says that like she thinks that she's scared of something, but she isn't sure what she's scared of. And like, I mean, I guess, feelings are hard.
That's true. Feelings are hard.
She goes into a little bit more detail about what happened. So after she ran away, she finds Nick and Charlie, and they force her to go to the emergency room to get treated for her burn. She's got like this big like white gauze on her arm, and she says when she looks at it, it reminds her of Solitaire and what they are capable of, because this was a real step up from them. It's all been really like innocent stuff up until now, and this has sort of been the
Well,
real.
up until Ben, and then she was
Well,
like,
yes. Yeah. Sorry. But like this was sort of the first instance of like mass harm to a bunch of people for no
mhm.
reason.
So just we didn't really talk about it last week, but I just even if we cut this, but so in my book last week, Lucas was like, I didn't think you'd be here. Isn't Solitaire all about her? And then he's like, I didn't think you'd be here. And it almost was like he was panicked. And I was like, is
Then what was the
he.
point of doing that whole thing?
Yeah, it just felt weird. It doesn't really connect.
Bit.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Me neither.
It was weird.
That's a good point. Anyway, so she still goes to school, which actually surprises me for somebody who like hates school, hates everything
Mhm.
about it, doesn't want to be there. She actually has an excuse to stay home. She had a traumatic evening and like almost died from a firework. Like I feel like that's the perfect
Yeah.
excuse to stay home, but yet she like insists on going to school.
Yeah. She even says,
So I
like, her
was,
mom is like,
yeah,
you can stay home, basically.
yeah. Anyway, so she goes to school, and her friend Rita asks what happened to her arm and if she's okay. And her response is that Solitaire did it, but she's fine. And she wants to believe it so bad, but she starts to tear up. And instead of like being vulnerable with this person and maybe getting closer to her and like having a new friend, or like a new close friend,
Yeah.
she runs away at the sign of tears.
I feel
So,
like they could actually be good friends. And, like, I just, obviously, I don't know what happens after this in any way, shape, or form, but, like, I feel like Rita could be a good friend to her.
mm-hmm. I know, and like seems like wasn't Rita also the person telling her she's isolating herself?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like, yeah, I feel like Rita is really showing up here for Tori, and Tori is completely ignoring that.
Which, like, I get not wanting to deal with that because she doesn't want to deal with her shit, but it's still, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
She's hard.
she's hard. Yeah. So it's obviously very clear that Tori is not fine, even though
Hmm.
she says she is. But she remembers the flyers on the ground at the festival said Friday. So she is resolved to find out what Solitaire is planning for Friday and put a stop to it, because she is
Hmm.
convinced that whatever it is, it will not be good. It will be bad. So, cut to this is another funny thing. So, apparently, she says that she's been printing out all of Solitaire's blog posts and putting them on her wall at home.
Hmm.
And, like, I just feel like, hasn't she been saying this entire time she doesn't care about Solitaire?
I don't think I said that right. She realized it's potentially about her last week. So, like, I feel like that is the catalyst of her caring.
I guess. Anyway, I just thought it was funny that it was like literally like a week ago, and it was like, oh, I don't care about Solitaire.
Yeah.
And now she's got all of his posts up on her wall. So anyway, so she goes to the tech that lab and she's like scrolling through the blog, just like I guess trying to like make something make sense or like make it pop out. And Michael shows up, but she doesn't want to talk to him. She doesn't want to confront how she like ran away from him last night. So she just like walks out without saying anything. But he
Mhm.
just follows her around, which is like peak awesome friend, but at the same time a bit creepy at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like you're just gonna follow her around. Um, so yeah, follows her around and just sort of rambles at her with like random facts until she just like has nowhere else to go. So she ends up back at the tech lab, and he's like, "Oh, like you ran off again." And like, what happened last night? I had to message Charlie to like make sure you were okay because she didn't text him back at all.
Yeah. Which is
But
not cool.
no, not cool. Like you almost die. You should text him back.
Yeah.
But
He saved your fucking life.
mm, in her defense, she says she doesn't remember him texting her at all.
Yeah. She's
Like,
also not attached to her phone in any way, shape, or form. Like, she's not that type of person.
no. But like she says that like she remembers going to A&E, she remembers the bandage, like she remembers getting cleaned up, she remembers them like asking her things and all that sort of thing. And like she remembers the drive and stuff like that, but she doesn't remember the texts. Um but like I guess they sort of gloss over this a little bit because then she just says to him, I'm going to do something about Solitaire. So like there's no like, hey, I'm sorry. You're right. You were worried. I should have messaged you. There's no like owning up to your mistakes. It's literally just you've said something. Now I'm going to say something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sort of like, where's the accountability, man?
I feel like this is part of the reason because, like, I guess he kind of has an outburst this week.
Yeah.
And, like, at the time reading it, I was like, this seems a bit like a lot. But now, listening back to this part, I'm like, oh, yeah, for real. Makes sense.
Yeah. Um but yeah, so he says that he's surprised that she cares about Solitaire because she's been maintaining that she doesn't care
Mm-hmm.
since they started being friends. Um, they check through the news and stuff and see what the news is saying about Solitaire, but the festival sort of played it down and said, "Oh, one of our like displays went off wrong," like, and they didn't mention Solitaire at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, and then she's like focusing and like hyper focused on the Solitaire stuff, and Michael sort of tries to like extend this olive branch, I'll say, and is like, like I know this is a really cheesy thing to say and like people shouldn't say it, but at the same time I'm gonna say it. Like, if you ever need to talk about anything, I'm here to talk. And I guess it just like I don't like I don't know. I find her arguments here really not not accurate. I just don't find they make sense to me. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's just a personal issue where I don't understand it. But like she gets very upset and says like um she thinks that figuring out who Solitaire is important, and like people don't care about important things every anymore, and people are so used to like disasters that they think that they all deserve disasters. But like I don't, in the grand scheme of things, and me personally, I don't see how Solitaire is important.
Yes, but she has just realized that it's about her. And I think that that puts a level of like, not accountability, but like the bad things that Solitaire did, like Ben Hope and the fireworks at this festival, I feel like she's taking that on and being like, for some reason, Solitaire is directed at me and they're doing these bad things, so I need to stop it. But I don't even, it's not even just that. It's also like, I think the turning point for her was watching Ben Hope and being like, watching people beat Ben up and being like, if this were a movie, I would do something, but her just not doing anything. I think she was like, people should do something. We shouldn't just stand here. And I think that is like her big issue this, basically this week, I'll say, is you really need to stand up and do something, which is obviously not something that a lot of people do. So,
I guess, and I see where you're coming from. It just like in my head, so you're like the explanation is, well, she's just found out that Solitaire has essentially been talking to her. I
mm,
get why now it's important to her, but like why is she punishing everyone else and saying, oh, and everybody else is fake and they don't care about things just because they don't care about Solitaire? Like to me that's her
yes,
being
but
like judgmental and like, you know,
yeah, well,
a
it
little bit
100% is
self-centric.
100%. That's exactly what it is. But it's also like, you can't really fault this work for being about one person and her struggles. Like, most things are so self centered. Like in life, everybody is very much in their head most of the times anyway. So, like, I see where she's coming from. I don't think she's necessarily in the right because, like, she even is like, oh, I've lost my brother in your, I think that's in your part, isn't it? So I'm like, that's not true in any way, shape, or form. Anybody looking in can see that, but she can't see it. So
Yeah.
like she's just so focused on where she thinks that, I feel like where she thinks her faults are, that that's all she can think about for anybody else.
Hmm.
And she's also 16. It's like
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, so she said this whole thing like people are used to disaster, so they think they deserve it. And Michael actually makes a really Im- I think he makes a really important point. He says that people wish for disaster so that they can get attention because some people get no attention at all.
Hmm.
And if they didn't do something like cause a disaster or anything like that, they could be waiting forever that something that will never come. So
Yeah.
like I think that's really smart actually, and it's a really good way to look at it. Like all these disasters, all these like people that do maybe bad things, like is what they're looking for really attention, and
Hmm.
they just don't know another way to get it, and they've just been starved for attention this whole time. Like, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
just
No. Completely.
so I don't know. I thought it was a really good point for him.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
completely agree. Like, it is people, and it's such a like, people get so mad about people that are attention seeking and that kind of stuff. But it's like, why is it so bad that somebody wants attention? Like, yes, the extremes that people will go to is not great to get attention.
mm-mm.
But if somebody is reaching out for attention, then like that's not a terrible thing. But
No.
we treat it like it is. Like our society doesn't want people to want attention. But then we also have celebrities and we also have podcasts and we also have books. Like
Yeah. And what
everybody
are
wants
those?
attention. Yeah.
Yeah. If not for, yeah, we're attention seeking people.
Everybody is. Everybody wants validation. Everybody wants attention. And that's not a bad thing.
No,
It's being human.
100%. Yeah. It just like, I don't know. I thought it was very, very
Mature
perceptive of him
of,
as
yeah.
a 17-year-old, not a 17-year-old fictional character.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
uh, so he fishes a diet lemonade out of his bag for her. And she says it's not a well known brand, but it is her favorite. And I just want to bring back um, a moment from week one, I believe, when Lucas bought her a Sprite because he knows she likes lemonade. And she's
Yeah,
thinking in her head, Sprite's not really lemonade. And it's
yeah,
not, it's lemon lime soda.
exactly.
So there's I feel like there's this juxtaposition between Lucas and Michael
Right.
here of like he went not out of his way because he said he was at like a grocery store or something. He was at a market and saw it and bought it because he thought of her.
Do we believe him though?
I mean, maybe,
Yeah.
but as opposed to
It's
Lucas who just like picked up a generic brand that is not really what she likes. I just,
but I also think that not not necessarily what she was looking for, but also sweet. It was sweet of him to pick up something because he was like, I remember from childhood that you like lemonade, so I got you this,
yeah.
which I associate with lemonade. Like, I still thought it was sweet, but the fact that Michael, like, she probably didn't even tell Michael that she liked lemonade and he bought her this, like, it's just intuitive and, like, kind of brings it to a different level.
Yeah, but I feel like she's sort of lucky to have both. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like I feel like they were nice moments in their own respect. Like,
yeah.
yes, okay, Lucas got it wrong. She doesn't like Sprite. It's not lemonade, it's lemon lime. But like I agree with you. It was still a sweet gesture considering they hadn't really gotten a chance to reconnect. So like the fact that he did remember and she probably didn't even remember his like birthday or something like that. Like,
Yeah, she didn't. Yeah.
you know, it's nice of him,
Hmm.
but obviously Alice Oseman wanted us to like prefer Michael in this moment,
Oh,
right?
obviously, yes, 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 yes. And I do.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, so she admits after he gives her the lemonade, she admits that she thought she was going to die when the firework was coming for her. And then she thinks to herself that like Michael is a perfect person and obviously that means he is far too good for someone like her. And I know that this is part of the issue is that she's got all this self-loathing for no reason,
Hmm.
but it really bothers me that she's like far too good for someone like her. Like what has she done wrong? You know what I mean? Like, and I get, again, I understand that that's part of the issue is that she has this self-loathing for no reason, but it's like a mental thing. Like she sees herself as awful, so
Hmm.
therefore, I get it. But like, I would love to know why she thinks she's so terrible.
Yeah. I guess this is another one of those issues of like real world books is you just get the snapshot into this moment of their lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. But then also, I don't know. I've also felt the same way she does when it doesn't really make sense to be like, I don't deserve this in my life and like that shit. So I just think it's a very real human feeling that people are just like, oh, somebody else is so perfect and I just don't deserve it. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Um. So she just walks out again. And she's home having dinner with Nick and Charlie. Her parents are gone again, like never home.
which is why?
I mean,
Like,
I don't
the
know.
last time they left was a fucking disaster. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm wondering if maybe like I don't know, maybe when my kids are teenagers, I'll go out all the time. Maybe I'll
Yes.
be like, "Oh my god, yes, I'm free."
Yeah, but the difference is your teenagers, if they're struggling and if dinner is an issue, that is triggering to them, you'll probably stay for dinner and then you'll be like, okay, cool. We finished
Peace
that.
out.
Now I'm gone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think you would leave before dinner if you knew that was a trigger.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't put that pressure on your oldest child to be like, okay, I'm leaving. You need to make sure that this goes well, or it's going to be a shit show. You wouldn't put that on your oldest child. Can
Yeah.
you fucking imagine
No.
how terrible that would feel for
No.
you to be like, okay, make sure that, like, you wouldn't do that.
I would put that on my parents though. Be like,
Oh,
"Hey, mom,
oh,
dad,
100%. Yeah.
we're
But
going out
that's,
to dinner. Come over."
yeah. But that's different too. Also, your parents are nice grandparents to your
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
So it's not like last
That's
week
true.
where it was like a fucking shit show either. So,
Yeah, that's true. Um anyway, we have a little bit of an issue at this dinner because Charlie sort of asks Tori like, "What's up? What's wrong?" And she's annoyed that like she's like trying to explain to them why solitaire is important and why she needs to stop them. They think that, well, it's not really that big a deal, like just leave the teachers to deal with it, or like the adults, like it's not a huge deal, it's just some idiot playing pranks, like I don't know why you're invested in this, sort of the way I just was like a
yeah.
minute ago. Like, I don't understand why you're so invested in this and why you think it's so important and why you think everybody should care.
Yeah.
And so she's annoyed that no one seems to care.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, they're trying to say, like, just leave it for the teachers, leave it for the adults. And for some reason, again, she thinks it's really important and that people should care about it. And if they don't care about it, then obviously they're fake and like they
Yeah.
don't care about anything and like everything is awful. And she does say, like, yeah, like I've lost my brother. Like I never thought you would be like this. I never thought you would do this. And it's like,
Which is, he's also in the other school. Like, it's not in his face every day. So there's so many things wrong with this. And also, if she was just like, hey, I think solitaire is about me, then they would fucking care. They would
yes.
jump on their white horses and they would ride
Yeah.
at dawn. They would ride at dawn to,
To
yeah,
save her. Yeah.
exactly.
but but yeah, like she's not explaining anything, she's just like, this is important, why don't you care, I can't believe you don't care. And
Yeah.
anyway, she ends up getting really angry and yells at Charlie and then runs and like retreats to her room.
Which is also kind of shitty because it's dinner time.
Yeah, but I guess Nick was still there, but I mean, I don't think that really helped because he had a rough go for a few days after this event.
Yeah. Which, like, you can't put anything on either of them. They're all fucking
No.
children. Where the fuck are the parents? This is what I was
Yeah.
saying. Ugh.
But like, yeah, I mean, you can't fault her for getting, I mean, I can fault her for being angry because I don't understand why she thinks it's so important that everybody care. Like,
Yes.
if she cares, fine, great, fill your boots. But I don't think you should tell people they're being fake just because they don't care about. Do you know who it reminds me of? Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye, calling everybody fake and phony. And I
I don't
hated
know
it.
if I actually read that book.
No, don't. You don't need to. Although I've been told that it's actually better as an adult than it is as a teenager.
Well, if I own it, I'll read it. But if I don't,
Mm. Anyway, so so yeah, I can't fault her for getting angry at Charlie. Like, I don't think she should have to walk on eggshells because of Charlie's health problems.
yes. And that's
You
what we
know what
said
I mean?
last time.
Like,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Same
Like, I
thing
don't
with
think,
Nick. Like,
exactly. I feel the same way. I'm like, you can't, they're all children. They're not responsible. Where are the fucking parents?
yeah. Um Anyway, So when the parents get home, I guess they were just out to dinner, Charlie actually tells them that Tori, I guess, blew up, got
It's
upset.
not okay.
Yeah. So they come to see her. And chalk this up for like least helpful conversation on the planet. They ask her what's wrong, and she actually says, I don't know. And I feel like this is like red flag number one, that you need to take your child to see somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she is upset and super upset, but does not know why. I'm just saying. Anyway, so the response they have from her saying, I don't know why I'm upset, but I am, is to tell her to cheer up.
Which is why I think this is a book for our generation.
It's true. Oh my God, yes. So, after they tell her to cheer up, which again, not helpful,
Oh.
she sort of like rolls her eyes at them and like says something sarcastic. And they like, well, if you're gonna, they sort of like, I don't know, they get really huffy and they're like, well, if you're gonna be sarcastic, we'll just leave you to your misery.
Which is like,
And it's like,
that's not helpful to anybody.
no, it's so like, I feel like her parents cannot be real people. And I know they're not real people. I understand that. But like, it's just so unbelievable.
Does it take you out of the book?
A little bit. Yes, it does. It takes me out of the book.
What a
Yes,
callback.
Anyway, so the next morning she needs her school skirt ironed. So she asks her mom to help her. Her mom like completely ignores her. She's like, "Mom, mom, mom," and gets nowhere. So she literally has to go, "Mom, mom, 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 mom," until her mother finally answers her. And like she's literally just sitting there on the computer. She's not like solving world hunger or anything like that.
Yeah.
So like once she finally stops ignoring her, so she says, "Oh, well, like you need your skirt ironed, so do it." And Tori's like, "Well, no, I can't because I've never ironed anything before. I don't know how to iron, and this is a pleated skirt. Right now it has no pleats. I need pleats. So like you need to iron it." And they get into like a little bit of a fight here of the mom being like, "Okay, well, go get your other skirt." And she's like, "Well, no, that one's too small. I can't wear it." And she's like, "Okay, well, then go iron your skirt." And she's like, "I can't. It needs pleats and I don't know how to do it." And she's like, "Well, then go get your other skirt." And she's like, "I told you it's too small." And the mom ends up getting really frustrated and says, "Tori, I don't care." And to me, this is such bad parenting.
Yep.
Like, it's such awful parenting. Like, how, like, it might seem trivial, but, like, if it really matters to you that she is independent and does her skirt herself, teach her how to fucking iron.
Yeah. Which she obviously didn't teach her how to do it. And it's like, she's telling you her skirt is too small. The other one is too small. And your answer is just, I don't care. Like, if it was in America, she would have got sent home.
Yeah.
She would have gone to school, she'd be sent home, and then what?
I'm fuming.
Yeah.
I'm fuming because
I'm flummoxed.
I'm not even flummoxed. I am fuming. I would smack this woman.
Yeah.
If I could. If I had a chance to smack her, I would. Because she should not have had children.
Yeah.
That is what I think of this woman.
Yeah. Well, and I also feel like she thinks that. Which, like, not having children is not a bad thing. But if you're not going to care for them, don't have them.
Yes, 100%. I'm not knocking if you choose not to have kids. Live your best life. Like, but if you have kids, you cannot then act like you don't have them.
Yeah.
Especially if you've chosen to raise them. If you've, given them up for adoption or like giving up custody to the other parent. Again, fill your boots.
Hmm.
They live in your home. You can't then ignore them and treat them like shit.
Yeah. And this is like the second conversation we've ever seen between the two of them, and it is not great.
No, it's awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I want to smack her so bad.
Hmm.
So Tori then like shuts down and says, "You know what, Mom? Fine. I don't care either. You don't care? I don't care." So she literally goes up and puts on the skirt that's too small, puts on at least a pair of bike shorts underneath.
I'm glad she does, because if I was in high
Yeah,
school, I'd be like, it could have been bad. Could have been bad.
yeah,
If it was
yeah,
me, could have been worse.
yeah. I agree. And she just goes to school
Yeah.
and like so defeated too because her mother said those "I don't care." Like you can't say that to a kid.
No. But it's like, I also, it's just so, children, and like, yes, 16, still children. Children are so impressionable, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't ruin their fucking lives like that. Because that's what her mom did. Her mom was like, I don't care. And it's like, it's so hard. And like, obviously looking in from the outside, you're like, that's not gonna go well.
No.
It's just disappointing, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I need to move on from this, or else I will be annoyed.
You'll punch a bitch.
Yeah. So when she gets to school, Becky wants to talk. And I'm just like, how much more emotional, like gut punching can she take?
Mm.
And Tori sort of thinks maybe Becky's going to apologize and maybe like sort of try and rekindle their friendship. But Becky says, I'm not going to apologize. And she's like, I don't think I did anything wrong. And I'm thinking and looking at it and I'm like, really? You don't think you did anything wrong?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, Becky. I don't know about this.
I feel like they should have had a conversation after. Like, if you're actually best friends with someone and your brother gets punched in the face by your best friend's boyfriend, you're going to have a conversation after that. You're not just going to be like, I assume we're on the same page. You would have a conversation about it. And they didn't,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird. But I still feel like everybody should be on the same page of, your boyfriend punched my brother. We hate him.
Yeah. And like if they have been together for a little bit longer,
Hmm.
I can see that maybe the hesitation in breaking up with him. Like if her and Ben had been together for months and months, but they weren't. They were together for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So like who the fuck cares? Break up with him. But like if it was someone you've been with for like months and months, I can see you being conflicted about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, so Becky then says something interesting and says that they haven't really been acting like friends lately. Like even before the stuff with Ben.
Mm-hmm.
She says that she feels like Tori doesn't even like her. And she's like, if we haven't been acting like friends, then maybe we shouldn't bother being friends. And I thought they were already no longer friends.
Yeah.
Like after that blow up, like I thought, okay, the friendship is over. Becky like continues and says that Tori has changed and she doesn't seem to need Becky anymore because I guess Becky was always the one to get her out of her shell and the one to like help her talk or talk for her or like stop her from being the wallflower.
Mm-hmm.
But now she's changed and she's she has like isolated herself and turned herself inward so that she doesn't need somebody to do those things for her because she just refuses to do them.
Yeah.
And she also says it seems like Tori doesn't even like her. Like,
Yeah. Which, like, I can't fault her for all of this, because they have conversations, and Tori's like, I'm happy for you, but it's obvious that she's not. So, like, there's a lot on both sides that is not working. And I can't be mad at her for being like, I don't think this friendship is working. I honestly think that's very mature for somebody in high school to be like, this friendship isn't working for either of us. Like in high school for me, I don't think anybody ever would have been that mature to realize. So I don't know.
Yeah. So we get another person telling Tori to cheer up. Because Becky also tells her to cheer up right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how many people actually? I feel like everybody does that.
Hmm.
And anyway, like, it's just annoying and eye rolling. So she tells her to cheer up, stop with all her crap, and to hang out with Michael some more. And Tori sort of like goes self depreciating mode here and says that like Michael shouldn't even be hanging out with someone like her, and that he can't fix her. So, like, if that's what Becky wants, like someone to fix her, it's not going to happen.
Hmm.
And then the last words between them, Becky tells her, like, you're breaking down, man. Like, you have problems, you're breaking down. And Tori's like, I'm not a car, which I think is an amazing comeback to that.
Yes, 100%.
And Becky just responds with, fine, and then goes to sit with the friends.
Yeah.
And I just sort of love it. Like, I hate it, but I love it.
Hmm.
Like, I hate that they're fighting. I want them to be friends again.
Yeah.
But I love how quick she is. I'm not a car.
Mm. Yeah.
Like,
but it's true.
it is true, but it's funny. I'm not a car.
Yeah.
Anyway. Tori says that she's like unmoved, like she doesn't care, but she knows she should care. I feel like that's like another red flag.
Yeah.
When you know you should care, but you don't, I feel like that's something you need to figure out.
Yeah.
So she ends up like wandering around and makes her way to this like roofish area. And like she sits down with her legs hanging off the side. And she sees out in the distance the headmaster, Kent's, his lectern in a field. And there's like a bunch of students around it. And the lectern has Solitaire symbol written on it. And she like is like, oh, I wonder what's going on. So she checks the blog. And there's this big countdown that it's like 2 days until Friday. And then she looks up again, and the lectern catches fire. And
it was like spontaneous. I'm like, how did they do this?
I know, it spontaneously combusted. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it burned, like, she said it only lasted like 30 seconds, and then the lectern was like burnt to a crisp, which I don't understand.
I don't either. I'm impressed.
It was made of wood, so I don't understand how it can burn to a crisp in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But whatever, it does. All the kids are like, woo!
Like you would be, obviously. I would be the same.
So like all the teachers finally come out. I don't understand how they can ignore all this shit.
They ignored everything else, so.
Anyway, so they all shoo all the kids back inside. So then here comes Tori off the roof and goes to like inspect the remains, and she's like really resolved now because she's like, this was yet another stunt that was potentially dangerous and people could have got hurt. So like she's really resolved, like she's gonna catch Solitaire before Friday and make sure that they don't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
So I guess it's the next day, maybe the same day. She's in school and sitting in the library. Her lot sort of see her, but then they like all look away with like those like
Ugh.
you know those glances where they're looking at you and then they turn away so that you don't make eye contact. And
Yeah.
it's just awful.
Taco taco.
So I guess Michael finds her and asks if they can talk privately because he has news. And she's like, oh, okay, fine. So like they get up to go somewhere to chat, but like he doesn't actually tell her his news.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm like, do you not have news? Like you you
What
where's
is
the news?
what is happening? Where's the news?
Where is news? Um Tori sort of says it like he seems really sad, which makes her want to run away. And I'm like, you want to run away because he's emoting?
Yeah,
She just wants to be Mr. Roboto and not be around any emotions at all.
maybe.
Hmm. Anyway, so he keeps like rattling off like just small talk, random facts. And she says that she looks at him and sees something different than his normal emotions. She says like she sees humanity. And I guess I know.
Yeah.
I guess she sort of feels bad then and tells him that he doesn't have to keep being her friend anymore. Like he doesn't have to pretend to care about her and that she's fine and she understands, and once she catches Solitaire everything will go back to the way it was, so like he doesn't have to worry about anything, and just like he doesn't have to keep pretending to be her friend. And then she also tells him that he's like this perfect person and like she doesn't want to like interfere with that. And like you must be good friends because nobody's perfect.
Yeah. It's
So the
literally
fact,
what we just said
yeah,
before.
yeah. So like the fact that she thinks he's perfect, like really says a lot about how deeply she actually cares for him.
Yeah. Great.
Um, I guess he like leans over and wipes a tear from her face. She says it's not in a romantic way, but like I don't honestly can't imagine another way
Yeah.
to wipe someone's tear from their face, unless it's like you're doing it to a small child, like then you do it with the whole hand,
Yeah.
right, like this.
Like
Yeah, but like he used his thumb to like wipe the
one
tear.
tear. It's very supernatural. Like the Dean one tear, and you like wipe that off.
Or like was it that movie with Johnny Depp in it, Crybaby, from the
Yeah.
80s?
Yep. The
Yeah,
one tear.
the one tear and then he licks it off his finger.
Like you would.
Yeah. um anyway, so yeah, like she didn't even realize she had been crying, and yet he like wipes the tear from her face.
The breath she
um
didn't realize she was holding.
I know. Ugh.
Oh.
So he tells her that he isn't perfect and he feels like he has no friends except for her. So he says that like if she doesn't want to be friends with him, he understands. And he's like, I know that I'm always chasing you and talking to you and making the first move for you, and not the first move romantically, but like the first move like just in general. Like he's always coming to find her, he's always texting her, calling her, finding her in the crowd. Like he
Yeah.
does everything first.
Yes.
So he says obviously he's not doing it to make her feel better. And I'm like, yes, you go, Michael Holden.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes. And like I feel like this is very another moment of her being really like egotistical and egocentric, because she literally thinks everything is about her. Like, you're not mean to him. Maybe he is appreciative of that. You don't call him a nerd or a freak or a weirdo. Like
Or
maybe
a
he's in the
wanker.
yeah, like maybe he's like, yay, somebody's not calling me names. I want to be their friend.
Yeah. But he deserves more.
Of course he does.
Everybody does.
But I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
she thinks everything is about her. She thinks, oh, he's obviously sacrificing so that I feel better. Like, maybe
Mm-hmm.
you make him feel better, bitch.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is the truth. So
Yeah. Anyway, so they sit for a while in silence. And then Michael, like, sort of brushes her hair from her face. And she lets out this, like, random suicide fact. It's a bit weird, but then she asks him what his news was, and then he just gets up and walks away. So, like, I feel like they never say goodbye to each other.
No.
They're always just, like, making each other angry and then leaving.
Yeah.
I'm just, anyway, okay, fine. But Tori says that she thinks that he's walking out of her life. Like, fine, like, not finally in a not finally like, oh my god, I'm so happy he's finally walking out of my life, but like, she's like, this is it, this is the moment, he's not coming back now, like, I've pushed him like to the brink.
Yeah.
So Thursday comes around, and I guess that was a continuation of Wednesday. But then Thursday comes around, and the final countdown is on the loudspeakers on repeat, which I also low-key love. Like, it's the final
Yeah.
countdown. Anyway, it used to be my husband's ringtone for like years when we were first dating.
Oh, wow.
So, anyway, it's on repeat, and I'm like, yes, I would totally jam to that. But they're having a snowstorm at school. So lessons are canceled by period 3, and they send everyone home. But for some reason, Tori sticks around, and I don't understand how. Because, I'll tell you why. And maybe it's a different thing. Maybe they have different rules in the UK. But where we are, you are not allowed to leave a student in the school without a teacher present or a admin present.
Yeah,
So, like,
how would you know?
but like, if we close in the middle of the day,
Do you like name every person as they leave the building?
no.
So,
No.
like, if somebody stayed in the bathroom, you'd never know.
No. So, if we leave partway through the day, it is the admin's job to literally stay until everybody has exited, and they do a final sweep of the building to make sure there's no one left.
Yeah, but if you like stand on the toilet.
I mean, I guess, but then also they would lock the door and turn on the alarm.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like if you're still in the school, you would trigger the alarm.
Yeah. I also feel like there is an alarm in their school too. But maybe, so this just makes me feel like maybe she's not the last one there. Like, because the alarm isn't set. So maybe there's somebody else that they're like, we need to get this person out of the school before we figure shit out. And she's just, because she ends up outside.
Yeah, it's true. So she goes to hang out in the art block. Like, it's like an outside upper level. No, it's not. I lied. So she's hanging out in the art block. She grabbed a heater from the music block and brought it with her. So she's sitting outside with a heater outside.
Yeah.
In a snowstorm. Eek. Anyway, she talks about how she watched the movie Garden State and she loved it. But then she was like, oh, it's about this guy, and you don't know whether his life is depressing or not until he meets this girl who teaches him to live life to the fullest. But then she's like, oh, well, maybe I didn't actually like it. That sounds really cheesy and corny, actually. No, I didn't like it. Oh, but I like the music, and oh, I like the way they shot this scene, and oh, I like this. So I'm like, this hit a bit too close to home, and she just, like, decided she didn't like it after all, just because it reminded her of herself.
I've never seen it.
I haven't either.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying. But I'd almost want to watch it now. You know what I mean? And also, the quote at the beginning of the after is from that, which was hard to read. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's great.
Yeah. So I guess she's feeling a bit dejected and despondent and vague and lonely. So she calls Michael, and he literally doesn't say a word. He doesn't even say hello when he answers the phone.
Cause he's mad, bro.
He is mad, bro. He mad, bro. So he doesn't speak. So she does. And she sort of starts this whole, like, spiel of, like, oh, I don't know whether people are being real or if they're just being nice to me and therefore being fake. And like, she's like starting this whole thing. And he actually interrupts her and he's like, I'm really angry at you. And he's like, you don't even see me as a person. You just see me as a tool that helps you stop hating yourself.
Yeah.
You know, he's being very insightful for a 17-year-old.
He is. He is very insightful. It just makes me wonder how shitty his home life is.
You
I
know,
don't I don't think it's great. I don't think it's great.
I feel like we can do a drinking game of like how often we talk about wondering what his home life is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Well,
toasted.
you wouldn't even finish the book. You'd have alcohol poisoning.
Anyway, so she tells him that it isn't true and she asks him to meet up. And she actually squeezes out because I like being with you, which is cute.
Yeah. Good.
Good for her. She's extending.
Yeah.
He asks her where she is, and she tells him, I'm still at school. I'm sitting outside. And he's like, oh my God, it's like Hoth out there. I'm like, haha, Star Wars reference.
Yeah. We're all about the Star Wars.
Yeah. But then he just tells her, like, yeah, I'll be there in a second. And he is. He literally shows up in like a minute in a snowstorm. So, way to go, him. He like must have ran.
Yeah.
So she asks him, like, what was the news you were going to tell me earlier? And we finally find out that he has been invited to the World Junior Speed Skating Championships.
World.
And the World Juniors.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
And he asks if she would like to go with him. And says that normally he can take one person and normally that's a parent or something like that, but he's asking her to go instead. My parents would never let me go. No. I'm assuming this is an overnight, like multi-day trip in potentially a different country.
Yeah.
My parents would not let me go.
No.
Especially if there was no adult. They'd be like, ha ha ha, nice try.
Same.
Like, it wouldn't happen.
100%.
Now, again, her mom is a piece of shit, so maybe
they'd be glad to get her out of the house.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Who knows?
When she finds out that he's been invited to the World Junior Speed Skating Championship, she, like, just sits up and she's like, holy shit. Like, she is genuinely shocked and really excited for him.
Which is amazing. I am so happy that she has a reaction. Because, like, I would also understand if she didn't, because obviously she's in a not great place herself. But he deserves somebody to be happy for him. He deserves it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she tells him that he is extraordinary, which is cute. The next little bit, they play in the snow for a while. Even though Tori doesn't see a point, but he's like, come on. So, like, they're throwing snowballs at each other and, like, dumping snow down each other's backs and all that. And it just reminds me of the Heartstopper moment, because they also have a play in the snow moment.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of that a little bit. And she is, like, laughing and having a good time and all that. He's about to, like, dump an armload of snow on her, so she runs inside because she knows he won't chase her with the pile of snow into the school. They hang out in a computer room, and I'm saying that they sort of play Floor is Lava on the swivel chairs. Like, they stand up on the chairs and, like, try and move themselves across the floor just on the swivel chairs. And then they just lie down. I guess they, like, moved the desk together or something to make a big one, and they're just lying on the desk and they're just chatting. And Michael asks her a weird, like, thought-provoking question, and it makes her realize that all those weird thought-provoking questions that the anonymous person sent her on her blog were actually from him. And I guess throughout the course of the conversation, Michael says that he would like to be more like her. And I'm like, would you? Just like, I don't know. She just seems so hard. It just seems so exhausting to be her.
Well, especially since we're in our head, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they fall asleep on the table in the school
Yeah, which is wild.
in a snowstorm.
Mm.
And it's fine.
Everything's
Like,
okay.
everything is okay.
Mm.
Anyway, she wakes up in the dark. And she at first thinks she's alone because there's no one next to her. But then she hears the voices and realizes she's not alone. And she hears Michael arguing with someone. And she hears him cursing. And she says it's weird because he never curses. And he says that whoever he's arguing with has been acting like a little shit. And he needs to stop fucking with her.
True.
So, he also says to whoever this is that they need to give her the full explanation or nothing. But, like, stop dropping little hints. And, like, apparently that's the worst. And I would have to agree. If there are all these little hints that I can't see, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, so I guess the other person talks, and Tori recognizes it, and it's Lucas. And Lucas says he tries to explain, but Michael comes back with, like, obviously you haven't heard enough. And then says, like, she's a real person, not a fucking childhood dream. And she has real feelings. And what you're doing has really been, like, tearing her up inside.
Preach.
Like, it's been really fucking with her.
Preach, Michael, preach.
True story. Like, honestly, way to go, Michael.
Yep.
So at this point, she sits up to, like, tell them, hello, I'm awake. You're arguing in front of me. And Michael sort of just shoves Lucas further into the classroom and, like, steps outside for a second.
Good for him.
Yeah. I like that he's giving them space to, like, figure it out.
Yeah.
He asks, like, if she ever remembered coming to his house when they were kids. And she's sort of, like, cagey at first. But then she's like, I mean, yeah. And he's like, do you remember the paintings in my house? We had a painting. It was, like, a rainy day with red umbrellas. And all of a sudden she remembers that she noticed at the solitaire party there was that same painting. And she's like, oh my God, like, that wasn't your house though, because you live in the next town over. And he's like, yeah. But he says, my parents are real estate agents and they own that house and they like to put art up in it to make it look more, like, welcoming and homey. And she thinks, like, that he must be a part of solitaire, but then he reveals the big reveal. Bum, bum, bum. He actually created solitaire.
Of course he did.
Yeah, of course he did. We all saw it coming.
Yes.
All of a sudden, like, Michael shows up in this moment and, like, is trying to, like, calm Tori down because she's starting to get a bit, like, upset. And she calls Lucas sadistic and tells him, like, you know, people could have died from those stumps. Like, you're a moron.
She's not wrong.
No, not wrong. And he tells her it all got out of hand, which is what they all say.
Yeah.
She then asks him, like, okay, well then why did you make solitaire? And his response, she says, like, why, she asks him, like, why did he make solitaire? And then she goes a step further and says, like, all those pranks, like, were they related to me? And he then drops another bombshell that he is in love with her.
Of course he is. Of fucking course.
Can I just say that the first time I read this, I literally was like, holy shit, like, out loud when I read that part. Because, like, I don't know. I was expecting like a teen sort of like, yeah, I've got a crush on you, or yeah, I like you, or something like that. I was not expecting I'm in love with you.
Yeah, which is also wrong. But yeah, I hate it. I hate it. Sit back down, sir.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this obviously she does the patented Tori uh, avoid emotions at all costs move, and she runs away. But he follows her, and this would terrify me if this like
Yeah,
if I was in like a school and there was nobody else there, and I was running away from some dude who had been like creepy stalking me almost to
yeah,
figure out all my habits and was chasing me through a school when there was no one else around, I would be terrified.
agreed.
Um so he ends up like cornering her in the art room, and he was like, "Can I please explain?" And she's just like, "Yeah, okay." And I'm like, you're being way too amenable right now.
Yeah, I would be
Like,
like, no, back the fuck off, bitch.
yeah, yeah. I'd be like, I don't know, let me go home and maybe you can explain it to me tomorrow.
Send me a text. Go
Yeah.
away.
Anyway, so he tells her that he never forgot anything about her and through their whole childhood. And he sort of then idolized her as this like one true love sort of thing. And he was touring Higgs one day and he saw her in the commons room, and he said that she looked really sad and lonely, and she was repeating over and over again, "I hate myself. I hate myself. I hate myself." And I guess he blamed the school for making her feel that way. So him and one of his friends got together to prank the school. And I just like, I don't know what to say to that because obviously it's heartbreaking.
Yes. But like, she doesn't even remember it, which is just such a non eventful day for her that it's like, clearly she was not in the best mental state before now either. Like, and we kind of wondered about that. We were kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, was she happier before and then now is not? But obviously she was not, because also, can you imagine seeing one of your childhood best friends, recognizing them and not talking to them? And that is
Yeah.
also weird.
Yeah. I agree. That is bizarre. Anyway, so he sort of admits then that after the fireworks thing got out of it, like the whole solitaire thing got out of hand, and he's out of the solitaire game. He says he hasn't done anything since then. So like anything else that's happened has been other people.
I think it's your shebang, sure. Sure. Sure shebang, sure. It's your yeah, it's his thing. I know stuff can get out of hand, but it just seems wild to say.
Yeah. Uh anyway, he's like, "Oh my god, I'm the worst person ever." And like I know so many of us would sort of jump to be like, "Oh no, you're not the worst," and blah blah blah, and like pat them on the head.
Mm,
She actually doesn't.
yeah.
She just doesn't argue with them. She's like, "Yeah, sure, that's how you feel," which I'm like, I love.
Yeah.
Uh, and she also says that she doesn't think he's Lucas Ryan anymore. Obviously, he's somebody else.
Which is what he's probably saying about her. Which,
Yeah,
completely fair. I don't blame either of them.
yeah. Um, he's still trying to like reason with her and be like, "Listen, I honestly thought you were going to kill yourself, so I wanted to try and do some things that would make you smile."
Okay, sure. Perfect. But you went about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like, actually, and I know in the beginning, he did try to be her friend ish. But I think, like, actively trying to be her friend would have maybe been the better action than pranking
Yeah.
shit. It's wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Um anyway, she is actually the most pissed because she says all this time he's been plotting and faking like everyone else. And she's been going through thinking he's been like this innocent, awkward person, and he's not.
Mm,
So I think she feels a bit betrayed more so than anything else because he's not who she thought he was.
of course, yeah.
Nonetheless, she convinces him to tell her what's happening with Solitaire tomorrow. But he says he doesn't know, just that they are supposed to meet at 6 a.m. So she thinks to herself, all right, now I've finally got like a time and a place. I'm gonna stop it.
Hmm.
But she is so hurt um about this whole Lucas thing that she just runs out of the room, runs through school, runs through town, just trying to get it all to stop.
Yeah. Because, like, her biggest thing is to just run. Like,
Yeah.
that is her, that's what she does. She runs.
Yeah.
So it's finally Friday. It's the day. And there's apparently a lot of snow in this town. Um, and it's 5:24 in the morning, and Tori is on her way to school to put a stop to something. She doesn't know what something is, and she's like, in her own words, a bit deranged. And she says she hasn't
Mm.
slept in a week, but it's a good deranged, an ecstatic deranged, an invincible, infinite deranged. And I'm like, I don't think that's a thing. But if that's what she feels like, then fine.
Yeah.
Um, she says that there was a solitaire post last night at 8 saying that their greatest operation will take place at Higgs and people are welcome to attend. So that's
Mm.
interesting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
on her walk to school, Tori has the urge to call Becky, and obviously it's 5:20 something in the morning, so she wakes her up. And Becky is confused at first, but Tori tells her she's feeling better and she's on her way to school now because of solitaire. And Becky starts to get worried and yells at Tori, asking if she's insane and telling her to go home. And Tori like just laughs, but she also starts to tear up. So she hangs up like mid Becky ranting at her.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's a lot. Um, but Tori gets to the school and she has to push through a hedge to get in since the gates are locked, and she ends up getting a large scrape on her face, and she like looks at it on her phone and she says that she likes the way it looks, and you're like, this is not
Yeah.
great behavior.
No.
um
But at the same time, I actually really appreciate her like need to call Becky.
mm,
Like I really liked that she did that.
yeah, yeah. Well, like, it makes you realize that even though what we've seen of their friendship is not great, then like it actually is better than we think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she goes through the hedge, gets to the school. She gets to the front door and it's ajar, and the burglar alarm is torn off the wall and the wires are cut. So obviously somebody's already broken into school, and she can hear voices coming from Kent's classroom, and he is the dean of the school or whatever,
Right.
and also the English teacher. um, so she peeks around the corner and she sees three people huddled together, and it is the Quiff guy who's been with Lucas a ton, and it's Evelyn who is like in her lot, but she doesn't really know much about Evelyn.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, she's not talking to her a lot right now. But Evelyn is in the Quiff guy's arms. So we're like, oh, this is her
No.
secret boyfriend that she was like pumped about. And then it's Lucas. So Lucas is there, and Tori wonders if Lucas like lied about being done with Solitaire because he said he was done with all of this. But she can also tell like it seems like the two others, Quiff guy and Evelyn, are ganging up on Lucas. So like obviously he probably wasn't lying. Um,
Yeah.
and she wonders if she should just go in and threaten to call the police. And then she notices that Becky is walking towards her in the hallway. And Becky says she knew Tori wouldn't go home because she said on the phone, you should go home. And Becky is in her Superman pajama pants. And she obviously like literally just jumped out of bed and came here. And I kind of love that she did. Like that makes me like her a lot more. Um
Yeah. Yeah. I also really appreciate that Becky like got out of bed in a state and like went to rescue Tori anyway, even
mhm.
like, being a state. I just really appreciate that about Becky. I love Becky at this moment. Not any other moment, but this moment.
Yeah, especially since like when they ended off they were like we're not friends anymore, but now she's like
Coming to make sure she's okay.
exactly. Like it just means a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it too. Yeah. So Becky shows up and she's in her pajamas and she's like I knew you wouldn't leave, so I had to come. And she hugs Tori, and it's a sweet moment. Tori thinks it reminds her of their friendship before boys and before alcohol, before Becky started to move on without her. And
See, this makes me wonder, like, are they gonna be friends again? Because it seems like they're still friendly.
yes. It's kind of hard to say because I don't really know because at the end of the book we obviously don't know either. And it's
No.
possible that they'll still be friends, but I think they're just in different stages of their lives and you're so close with people in high school all the time that it's impossible to like separate it. So, I don't know. It's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, Becky sees the people in the classroom and they both like stand outside the door and start to listen because they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And Evelyn is telling Lucas to grow some balls. And he says, like, he's the one that started Solitaire, so he doesn't need to grow them. And then the Quiff guy scoffs at him and he says, he did start it, but he's bailing as soon as they are starting to do something like worthwhile. And Lucas says he thought changing the environment would change a person, but he was wrong. And like that is such an important thing because like his whole point with Solitaire was that he wanted to change Tori, really. Like he wanted to change her life. He wanted her to be happy. He wanted to do that. But he couldn't. So he's just realized this. And I think this is like a big moment for him. And
Yep.
nobody else understands.
Yeah.
Um so the guy the quiff guy, because that's what we're calling him, asks for the lighter, and Lucas has it behind his back. And apparently, the lighter looks like a gun for some idiotic reason. And obviously,
Yep.
Lucas refuses to give it to him because, of course. So the guy with the quiff fights him for it, and he punches him in the face and in the stomach, and then he gets the lighter and he holds it to Lucas's neck. And Tori thinks how like it's obvious he won't actually burn him because he doesn't look the type, but she says Becky must not agree because Becky karate kicks the door and tells them to stop it right now. And I just imagine her as like a mother figure storming into this room and being like, stop this bullshit right now. I
Mm.
love it. I do. Um, and Tori follows her into the room and she tells the quiff guy he's not at all intimidating and she demands the lighter. And he grabs the Morrison bag, which is like they had a bag in there that is full of fire stuff. And
Oh.
he lights it on fire and throws it to the bookshelf. And they all stand there and watch it, but it just fizzles out. And Becky just starts laughing and she says, "So this is Solitaire's big finale," which is just like so brutal to say.
I
And
love
the
it.
quiff guy, I do too. The quiff guy goes to light the bag again, but she grabs the lighter from him and takes out her phone and threatens to call the police. And she calls him Aaron Riley because Tori doesn't actually know his name, but Becky does. And tells him he is not the bad guy he's pretending to be. And
Mm-hmm.
she asks, like, what is Solitaire even trying to do here? Do they think they're better than everyone? The school isn't important. Like, what are they even trying to do? And then she says, like, sadness is a natural human emotion. And she calls Aaron a giant dick, which is probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Evelyn asks who Becky is to judge them, and Becky goes a bit extreme here. She can't believe like Evelyn's super secret boyfriend is this guy and that she's part of Solitaire, and she says it's like year 8 all over again. So Evelyn asks Becky like who she is to judge them all, and Becky kind of goes a bit feral at this point. She's like a bit of a mean girl. I think we already kind of get that feeling from her, but in this moment she tells Evelyn she can't believe this is who her super secret boyfriend is and that she's part of Solitaire. She says it's like year 8 all over again, which obviously we don't know exactly what that means, but it's probably a burn.
Can I just say that, like, Becky is my spirit animal in this moment. Like,
Yeah,
she literally saves the day just by being a bitch, and I love it.
I know, me
Like,
too.
I'm like, yes, Becky is like the only time this entire book that I'm like, yes, you go, Becky. But I am.
Exactly.
I'm here for Becky in this moment. She really steps up.
Me too. And like her just showing up at all is
Yeah.
perfect. Like I'm
Yes.
so happy she did, obviously. Um Becky has the lighter, the gun novelty lighter thing, and she's flicking it on and off. And Evelyn just like slowly backs away from her.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Evelyn does ask why Becky thinks she's a special snowflake and a better person than them. And Becky laughs and she says she's done some shitty things and isn't a better person. Um, which, like, obviously we know that.
Yes, we
And,
definitely know.
and like, nobody's perfect and nobody's
No.
better. So, like, I think this is a really important point in the book anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but Becky does say she wishes she was a special snowflake so she could express like what she feels inside instead of faking a smile so that girls like Evelyn don't think she's boring, which is like a real truth bomb from her because like Tori, obviously we're in her head, but she's
Mm-hmm.
jealous of Becky and Becky's like popularity, how she's happy all the time and all this stuff. And now we're finding out that like she's faking it too. So like what even is real?
Oh
Everybody is
God,
sad.
you're pulling a Tory.
Everybody is sad. Nothing is real.
Everybody's
Um,
fake.
yeah. um, Becky also tells them that like she doesn't even know what's happening, but Tori thinks that this is bad and she believes her. So that's fair. Um, She then tells Evelyn she pisses her off and her shoes are ugly and to go back to her blog or Glastonbury or wherever she came from and stay there. And I'm like, she is vicious
It's
right now.
such a power move, and I love it so much. Like, your
Right?
shoes are ugly.
Like, what? That had nothing to do with anything. Like, obviously, that's something she's been thinking for a very long time and just hasn't said.
This was great.
It is, yeah. Aaron and Evelyn just give up and they all just like walk out of the classroom. And it's just so anticlimactic. And like, Becky really just did just talk them out of this. It's
She
just,
just destroyed them with words.
yeah, you really can do that, guys. um, so they all just walk out of the classroom, and then Aaron and Evelyn just leave the school. And I'm just like, wow, that was easy. Lucas, Becky, and Tori stop like in the hallway, and Lucas asks Tori why she came, which I think is kind of a stupid question. Like, you were talking to her yesterday. Of course you know why she came. But Tori says because he could have been hurt. And then he says Becky really saved them all, which is so true. Becky's just sitting on the floor, flicking the lighter on and off still, and muttering about how pretentious it is. And it like absolutely is. It's a lighter that looks like a gun. How silly.
Yeah.
Tori is still not really okay. She says that like everything is blurry. So like she's not doing great.
What is she? I don't. Did
Like
she get
mentally.
injured?
No, mentally. Yeah. Like, because in the beginning, she even said herself that she was feeling deranged in the beginning of this day at 5:47 or some 24, whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah. So she's mentally still not doing okay, which like, yes, the threat is done ish, but
Ish.
yeah. But I'm sure like she was geared up for something more than Becky going in yelling and everybody giving up. Lucas asks if he's forgiven, but Tori kind of counters and says, like, you don't really love me, do you? And he says, no, he just thought he needed her, but he actually thinks Becky is rather lovely. And like,
Aww.
I don't think that was necessary for him to say.
No, but I think it takes a lot of pressure off Tori because, like, she didn't want him to love her.
No, I know, but I would still be a bit sad if like someone's like, no, I don't actually love you. I just thought I loved who you would be, but I actually really like your best friend. I think that would just be like a punch to the ego.
Maybe.
Anyway, Tori kind of feels like throwing up. And I think that's just a combination of things. But she says she smiles like a clown before saying, like, you and the whole solar system to him, because she thinks that everybody loves Becky. Because, like, Becky is the person she's jealous of. So I do think she does have that kind of like, oh, of course you do.
Yeah.
Luckily, she does get over it real quick.
Yeah, like.
Yeah.
It's a
By the end of the book,
non-issue.
she doesn't care. Yeah. She also is like, in this moment, she sees something change on Lucas's face, and she's like, oh, he finally realizes that, like, he kind of realizes, like, who she is as a person now. Like, that in this moment, she is a bit deranged, as she said, and, like, she's not okay. And he can kind of see it, she thinks. Anyway, Tori feels hot and asks if they were going to do what she thinks they were. And Lucas says they were going to burn down the school, like, obviously. And she thinks of, like, how pointless and violent that this and, like, some of the other stuff that Solitaire has done is. And it's kind of interesting because, like, she hates the school, but she's like, that's just so stupid.
Yeah.
And, like, I think I felt the same way. I hated high school, but I also wouldn't want somebody to burn it down. Well, you know.
Yeah, I definitely didn't I liked the academic side of school. I didn't like the social aspect of school. I think that sucked. but I would not want the school to burn down at all.
Yeah. I
Like
just said it
any
and I was like, oh, maybe I would.
no, where else would you go to escape your family?
The pool for me, but yeah, that's true. That is true. Um, yeah. uh, so she wanders towards Kent's classroom and Lucas asks what she's doing and she says, get out. And she thinks in her head that maybe she said it too quietly. And then she says like loudly, take Becky and get out. And she says she can tell Lucas notices the orange glow on the side of her body, which I just thought was a weird thing to say. Like, how can you tell that Lucas notices the orange glow on the side of your body?
I don't know. Maybe he finally like sees something in his. Maybe there's something in his eyes that's like, oh shit.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, I just thought it was a weird thing to say. And it's like all those times when people are like, a feeling past their eyes, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Tori turns to the closest fire extinguisher, but it won't come off the wall. And Lucas kind of runs to help her, but they can't get it off. And I'm kind of assuming that Solitaire did that on purpose, like the closest
Oh,
fire
do you?
extinguisher. Yeah, that's what my assumption was.
Oh, I didn't even think too much into it. I just thought that they didn't know how to work a fire extinguisher and didn't know how to take it off the wall.
That's fair. The classroom the classroom door cracks and Lucas tells her they can't do anything and they have to leave. And like I kind of think the wording that he used is a bit triggering to Tori because her whole thing is like she didn't do anything when Ben was being beaten up.
Yeah.
Like she's really thinks that she needs to do something. So she obviously disagrees and she goes to the next corridor trying to find a different fire extinguisher. Um, and Becky and Lucas like go to run after her, but a wall display falls onto the floor and catches the carpet on fire and it like blocks the whole hallway as fire like I guess goes out to either direction towards Becky and Lucas and towards Tori on the other side.
This is very action packed.
It is. Tori does find an extinguisher that comes off the wall and she's debating if it's safe to use. And I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
Just use it. Like, if you want to do something, just use it. Don't, yeah. Just get out of the school. Yeah. Like, this fire extinguisher is not going to put out this giant fire. Like, it's a bit too far now. Like, you can't do anything.
It's too late.
Yeah. But somebody puts their hands on her shoulders and it's Michael and he grabs the extinguisher and throws it out the window. It's just funny.
I feel like you could do so many other things and just throwing it out a window is just not the best use of that item.
Right? And like even just keep it in case like you're blocked on your way out. Like, anyway. She gets like dragged to the nearest emergency exit by Michael and he throws her out, but she needs to get back in because she needs to stop the fire or in her head she's like or else her life will be for nothing. So like this is very not great.
Hyper focusing on this.
Yes, exactly. Like it's very big. So she rushes back inside. But Michael obviously follows her and he grabs her again, but she like is fighting tooth and nail to get free and she kicks him. And yeah, and like she ends up kicking him back towards the fire and his face changes and she thinks he's realized like Lucas did that she is not what they want. Like she is not what they think she is. So I think he's like, what the fuck? You almost killed me.
Yeah. It's like, I'm trying to save you here. Let's go.
Yeah. Like, don't kick me towards a burning fire. But then she kind of notices that, like, the classroom that they're next to is catching fire too. So she dives and pushes him back away from it before it explodes. Very action-packed. She is miraculously alive, but she can't see Michael, so she starts screaming for him, and she sees this shadow move, so she like assumes it's him, and he's there, but she can't get to him. So she starts to panic, and she's like, she's not panicking because of the fire or because of Solitaire, but because Michael is in the school and the school is on fire. Which is
Mm.
sweet.
But at the same
But
time, he's only there because she ran back in.
yeah, exactly. Uh, she can she can't tell where she's going, um, and she finally resignedly says like she's failed. Not the school, not even herself, but Michael, which is like a big 180 because like her big thing up to this moment was she had to stop the school burning down, and now she's like
Fuck the school.
Michael, yeah, basically she's like fuck the school, fuck me. Michael's dead. The school is dead. And then she's like I am dot dot dot. She doesn't say dead, but you kind of feel like she's giving up.
Yeah.
Um, she hears her name and realizes the fire is like closing in. So she runs up a set of stairs and busts out a window. And she is above the art conservatory, where she was. I think you were talking about it at the beginning of this week, where she was,
Oh,
where she's
in
got the
the
lectern.
during with the storm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and she says it's beautiful up there. And she says she has 1,000 thoughts at once, and 900 of them are Michael, and the rest are self hatred. So, not great.
Yikes.
Um, she looks back at the window that she broke to get out there and knows like that leads to pain. And I'm like, I'm assuming that means like being set on fire, burning, Michael's death. Um, she looks at the stairs that lead down to the courtyard, and they says that they lead to her failing time and time again. And then she looks down to the ground, and I'm kind of assuming like this is a second story roof or something. So it is pretty high. Um, and she says it's calling her, and it's like giving her a third option of hope and something better, which is not what this is, because obviously she's thinking about jumping off the building to kill herself.
Yikes.
Exactly. Um, so she says, like, in this moment, she realizes she never knew what she wanted, but now she thinks she wants to be dead, which is obviously not
Awful.
great.
Yeah.
Yes. She thinks about Michael being angry all the time, like the Hulk, and about Lucas and how that, like, his whole thing makes her sad, and Becky, and how, like, she doesn't even know Becky based on, like, what Becky was saying.
Yeah.
Um, she thinks of Nick and Charlie and how paradise isn't what you'd think. And she thinks about Ben Hope and how people just hate themselves. Um, and then out of nowhere, Charlie is like in the courtyard yelling up to her saying, don't. And Nick and Lucas and Becky show up, and she's like right on the edge of the roof, like getting ready. But
Yikes.
I feel like, and I don't know if this is something you'd want to say out loud, but I'm going to say it. I feel like I wouldn't jump if there were people there, because I wouldn't want them to have to like see it. That would be so traumatic for them. You know what I mean? To actually physically see it.
Yeah, and I get that. Although I feel like she's so wrapped up in her own shit right now that like that whole empathy thing is probably not even registering.
Yes, no, 100%. And like, I'm not obviously downplaying, like, obviously people do commit suicide and people do find them, and it's very awful. Um, I just, that's all I can think of is like how awful that would be for her brother to go
Yeah.
through. Ugh. Um, Somebody nearby Tori and above her yells stop, and in her head she assumes it's God, and she thinks this is classic God waiting until you're actually about to do something to like butt in. It's just obviously it's Michael. And he's he's at the top of the school leaning over looking down at Tori, and he says please, and the sight of him makes her want to die even more.
Why?
I'm assuming she feels bad for kicking him into the fire.
I guess.
But you'd think she'd be like, oh, good, he's
He's
alive.
alive. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you're alive.
Yeah. So, but then I think she's like, she thinks he's realized that she's not somebody that he wants to be around, and like her
Right.
only friend is. eh, She's in a very hating herself moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, she tells him the school is burning down. He's like, obviously he knows that. um, and that he should leave. And she turns back to the edge. And he asks her if she wants to kill herself, and she doesn't answer. But he says he doesn't want her to do that. She can't leave him. She can't leave him here alone. And she says his voice breaks, and he tells her she needs to be there. So like exactly. It's sad.
It's so sad.
Like he really needs her. Um he actually starts to cry, and it like breaks Tori, and she starts to cry, and she just repeats I'm sorry and takes a step like towards him and away from the edge. Um he tells her to shut up and says he's so stupid and he can't believe he didn't realize this sooner. And
Like, do you think that that means like he's stupid that he didn't realize that she,
was suicidal?
yeah.
I do. Yeah. Like I think he's kind of putting together that like she's angry all the time too, and she hates herself kind of thing, and like he's like I can't believe I didn't realize like we were so similar,
Right.
is kind of what I think he's saying.
Right.
He tells her when he took the fire extinguisher from her and chucked it out a window, it wasn't just about saving her. And she realizes, like, in her head, she's like, oh, he's angry all the time and he wants the school to burn. Like, he hates the school. Which is sad because, like we talked about, I think last week, the reason he mostly hates the school is because they're assholes to him.
Yeah.
Um, and she kind of says, "Oh yeah, you threw it out the window because you wanted this to happen." Like, and he's kind of surprised, and he's like, "You do know me," which is a big deal to him because, like, I feel like he doesn't feel known by anybody. He doesn't feel like anybody understands him, and now he's like before he was like, "You only want me around to make you feel better." And I feel like he didn't feel like their relationship was two-sided, but now he's kind of like, oh, you do actually know me and you do care about me kind of thing. And I think it's a really
Yeah.
pivotal moment in his life, maybe.
Hmm.
um and he tells her like he's never been good enough, and he gets like stressed out because he can't make friends, and he wishes he was normal but he's not. And when the school was burning, he thought it was like a way out of it all, and that it would make him feel better, and it would make her feel better too if the place that they hate was like gone. But he does say like he was wrong, but like also if he didn't throw that one measly fire extinguisher out the window, it still wouldn't have stopped the fucking fire. Like
No.
this is not
It
his fault.
would have done zero.
Exactly. They would have like sprayed one area and then been like, "Oh, well, we still need to leave because the school is still very much burning." Um Michael is like sitting on the roof that he's on, and his feet are dangling by Tori's head, and Tori looks back to the edge, but he tells her like some people aren't meant for school, but that doesn't mean that they aren't meant for life. And I think that is like such a important thing
Yeah.
to tell every teenager on the planet.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
and it's not even like for him, a lot of it is academic. Well, obviously not all of it. A lot of it is academic, but a lot of it is too that he can't find people that he's friends with or that like connect with him. Um, so he has like the worst of both of it, and Tori's is mostly the social aspects and just her feelings in general. Um, but like life changes after high school, and I just think it's such an important thing to let kids know because
Yeah.
high school shit.
High school is shit. And for most people.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, it's just so hard because when you're in it, you do think that it is everything, that is never going to stop, that it's never going to get better, but it 1,000,000% always does.
Yeah.
Always. Like, it will always get better.
Yeah. And like the shittiest part is, especially when we were in high school, I think it is a bit different now, but when we were in high school, everyone was like, these are the best years of your life. And like,
No.
they weren't. If anything, like, it's gotten progressively better since like university, lots of fun. And then like now I'm living my best life. So I don't know. I think it's just, and I do think it's different. I think like people have stopped calling high school the best years of your lives. But imagine 17 years old and you're supposed to be like living the best years of your life. That's just insane.
Yeah. I can't even.
Yeah.
And like it's really hard too because you see these, like when you're in high school. Okay. So it's just, I don't know, you see these kids when you're in high school and you see like these popular kids that are like actually living their best life and like, I don't know, just having a time, and you set that up as like the ideal, and like if you're not that, then everything is terrible. And like, I don't know, it's really hard to get past it when you're in high school, but then you got to realize it's literally only 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 3 years and then it's gone. And then you can leave everything and all those people, you can leave them behind and you can just like start being who you want to be.
Yeah.
And like you'll find your people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the big thing too, is that like I was such a closet nerd in high school
Mm-hmm.
because
It wasn't cool.
it wasn't cool, and like I couldn't tell people what I was really into, and like now I'm literally sitting here in a t-shirt that says I'm the bookish type. Like,
Talking, yeah, and talking
and talking
about
about
books.
books.
Yeah.
So like it's it's really hard to be yourself in high school, and if you were, I mean, more power to you. I'm so impressed. I
Mm-hmm.
could not express who I really was and didn't even really know that like I like fantasy and I like sci-fi movies
Mm-hmm.
and like freaking Dungeons and Dragons. Like
Yeah. But
I'm
like, you probably didn't even realize that in high school. Like,
no,
you don't know who you are.
no, and you don't realize things about yourself like until, and like now I own that. I like to crochet, I like puzzles, I like reading. Like I own that about myself and I'm
Mm-hmm.
totally okay with it because it makes me happy.
Yeah.
So like I just feel like more kids need to know that it is okay to not, well, one, it's okay to not be okay. I feel like we say that a lot.
Yeah.
But also like it is okay to like not have a great time
Yeah.
in high school. But it's
Yeah.
not worth your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
And I think like the issue, and I think it kind of comes up in this book with Becky, the issue is those people that you look at that are having a great time in high school, they likely also don't know who they are and what they like. And they're likely not enjoying it as much as it seems like they are. Like, obviously, some people do. Like, some people are lucky that they found, and this is like so classic, but like, they found the sport that they love. So they know, like, this is their thing and they have a good time in high school because they're popular and they're into their sport. And like, that's awesome for them, obviously.
mm,
But a lot of people in high school have no fucking idea what they're doing,
yeah.
which is completely fine. I wasn't really on popular or anything. Like, I didn't, I had like a few friends or whatever, but I just was kind of like Tori. Like, I just hated myself in high school for like no real reason. But it's just so weird because like I didn't have any of the bad shit, but I just didn't have a good time in high school. And it's like, That's completely normal. That's completely fine. I don't know. Anyway, Tori tells Michael that she can't, and he asks to help her. And she's like, "Why do you want to help me?" And he tells her one person can change everything, and that she's changed everything for him, and she is his best friend.
Hmm.
Which is just so sweet. Like, we don't really know where Michael's headspace was at before he met Tori, but
No.
obviously it wasn't great. So, like, she has helped him more than she'll ever know, which is just really nice. Um, he tells her that they're all going to die one day, but he wants to get it right first, and he knows she is not a mistake. Um, he looks towards the school and he says, like, maybe they could have stopped it if he didn't throw away the extinguisher. And like his eyes start to fill up again because he's upset that he did that. And like, I don't think they could have stopped it. It was a blazing fire. Like,
No.
the floor was on fire at this point. A fire extinguisher is not going to do anything.
I don't
But
understand how a floor can catch fire. Isn't it like linoleum?
they said it was carpet,
Oh, okay.
which I'm like,
What kind of a school has carpet?
in the hallway.
Yeah,
Blech.
that's weird.
Makes me want to throw up thinking about how gross that carpet is.
Well, considering like legit last year in our school, somebody used to pee in the heaters.
Oh my God.
So like
I actually want to throw up thinking about that carpet and your school now.
at another school, apparently somebody used to poop in the corner of the bathrooms and then spread it around the wall at a
Good.
different school.
Gross.
So I'm sure it was a boy who peed in the heaters, though. I don't think a girl could get that kind of aim.
she'd need one of those
Like the
sheepy
funnels.
things.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
funnels. But like kids are gross. So
Yeah, it's true. Oh, I can't do
I
this
would
anymore.
I would not want carpet in the hallway.
Ugh, gross. Anyway.
Sorry.
Ugh. Tori tells Michael not to hate himself, and she knows he doesn't just hate himself for the school, like burning down, but for other things too. And she tells him that, like, she thought he was perfect, and it sort of made her hate him. But after getting to know him, she saw more and more flaws, and that's why she knows, like, he's a real person and he isn't perfect. And so she saw that he had more flaws, and then like she can relate to him and they're similar. So
And I honestly, I think she's so obsessed with this whole idea around being fake,
mhm.
and like she detests that idea. So seeing his flaws, making him like a real person, like makes her like even more sure that he's not being fake.
Yes, yeah. um so he's jumped down onto her level of roof now, and they kiss, and she says she's not sure like if this is the right place or time, but she knows she needs to hold him. So
Hmm.
yeah, it is sweet. And he
But
tells her
like
like, hmm,
I'm still left wondering if their relationship is romantic in nature or not. And maybe that's the whole idea behind the book of like, not really. It's not really either or. Because I know there's a lot of, um, like,
discourse.
yes, discourse around Tori's sexuality. A lot of people think she's ace.
Yeah.
But like, is she?
Yeah. I don't know. And like maybe it is just a like she's in a state right now where she needs to be close to him to kind of like ground herself, and maybe like that is a step that they took to feel closer. And like I I don't know a lot about asexuality, but I'm sure that there is like a spectrum, like most
Hmm.
things, of what people are wanting in relationships and that kind of thing. And like I feel like Tori probably doesn't really understand her own sexuality yet, so He tells her that he's loved her since he met her, but he mistook it for curiosity. And she tells him that that is not true, and it's the dumbest rom-com line like she's ever had to endure. And he kind of just laughs and hugs her, and he says, "There you are, Tori," because like she's back to her normal snarky self now. They turn to the field, and there are apparently hundreds of people just standing there shouting their names and like watching the school burn down. And
and watching them kiss.
Yeah, I'm just like, how did they not notice that hundreds of people have shown up? They're just like, this is just weird.
So wrapped up in their own stuff.
Yeah. They check the Solitaire blog and there's nothing there, but then they check Facebook and Lucas apparently posted saying Solitaire is burning the school down, and that's why people have showed up. Michael says he didn't want to waste something beautiful and wanted others to see the school too, because like, I don't know, fire is beautiful. I get what he's saying. Obviously, the school burning down, not great, but yeah, it's probably pretty. I'd watch it. Tori is like laughing and crying and kind of just like curled into herself, and Michael is like holding her up. Michael says, "So you hate yourself. I hate myself. We should get together," which is just nice that they've.
How?
I don't know. Just be together.
Okay.
Just be. Tori kind of to herself just thinks like she isn't fixed because Michael is there, and she isn't happy, but seeing all the people below and having someone who can help her and like she can help him too makes her not want to take a leap off the school. So like obviously that is a good thing.
Yay!
Yeah. So then we get to the after, and I think we already said we both of us haven't seen Garden State, but like the quote here is just intense.
Is it?
Do you remember it?
No.
So it's a conversation between two people, and Carl Benson says, "I haven't seen you since like junior year. I thought you killed yourself." And Andrew Largeman says, "What?" And Carl Benson says, "I thought you killed yourself. That wasn't you." And then he responds, No, that wasn't me." Like, obviously it wasn't him. He's there. What a dumb conversation. But also very intense. Like, no, yeah. I didn't kill myself. Anyway, I kind of want to see the movie now, but I'm like, that's just like so crazy to say to somebody.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Like, obviously they didn't kill themselves. They're right in front of you. Anyway.
I feel like that's a question you should keep to yourself. I thought you killed yourself.
Right? Some people are so tone deaf. Anyway, we're obviously still in Tori's head, and it's after, but it's really probably only 10 minutes later or something. It's very, very shortly after. And Tori says she doesn't really know what's happening, and she expects like they'll all be questioned by the police, and Nick told her that they all need to go to the hospital. So Tori, Michael, Charlie, Nick, Lucas, and Becky are all piled into Nick's car, which is a small Fiat, which I just find funny.
Yeah, it's like a clown car situation.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Tori sees Lucas looking up at Becky with like a hilarious expression on his face, and she knows he likes her, and it makes her feel a bit less sad. So like she has really accepted this and 180'd. She thinks of how she's like said mean things about people she loves, and she feels bad about it because like obviously her and Becky have had their fight, and like I think she still loves Becky as a person.
Yeah. I hope they make up.
I do too. Like even if you are different people and you aren't into the same things, I think they can still be friends, especially after high school. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
You can be friends with different people. Charlie obviously calls their parents, and then he addresses Tori, and we don't get what he actually says, but she says it's what you'd expect, with love and understanding and support. And then he turns and says to her that he noticed that she wasn't okay, but he didn't do anything. And she says like she loves him anyway, and he says he loves her too. And
Hmm.
I just think that that is so important because like I feel like she felt the same way, that like she knew something was wrong with Charlie, and she didn't really do anything until after he actually hurt himself. So I don't know. I think they're very mature siblings, really. Um, Charlie then tells everyone in the car that their dad said that this is probably because he read The Catcher in the Rye too many times as a teen and it got absorbed into his gene pool. Which is just so, like, I'm assuming Charlie was like, Tori almost jumped off the school and killed herself. And the dad's like, this is my fault for reading books, sad books. Like, and Becky
Uh,
kind of just gets annoyed and she's like, why can't teenagers just be sad and it not have to do with something? Which, like, is just kind of funny. But anyway, like, I kind of wonder how the conversation's going to go with their parents. Maybe their parents will, like, realize something, but probably not. Um, Nick quietly asked Charlie where he's going to go for sixth form, and he says that he's going to go to Truham and that he suspects that they'll all be going to Truham now because
mhm.
obviously Higgs just burnt the fuck down.
Yep. It's lovely.
Um, Lucas kind of just says this is supposed to be the best times of their lives, which is what we were just saying,
Yeah.
um, which is funny because it's obviously not. um, Becky says she gets it. Like Solitaire wanted to make them feel important and involved in something. Like they're all waiting for something to change, and patience can kill you. Like doing nothing can kill you, basically. And they all kind of just sit there thinking about that. And Tori thinks how she doesn't know what's going to happen to them or the school, but she knows that she's alive and she's not alone, which
And
is what she needed the whole time.
yeah. I just, I'll be honest, I find a lot of these concepts that they talk about, like the whole like caring about something important and the fakeness, and then this thing about like teenagers just being sad and like making you feel important and involved in some, all this stuff. I feel like it's a little bit too abstract for me.
Yeah.
Like, my high school was not great. Like, I wasn't happy about it, and I didn't have
Yeah.
a great time, but I wasn't like morose about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I was still, for the majority of it, like, I was still a happy ish person. And that's just my personality. So, like, all of them, like, talking about these, like, abstract concepts about, like, waiting for change and, like, wanting to feel important and all this stuff, like, I get it, but I can't relate to it.
Yeah. I get that. Um I I feel like I didn't go through this in high school, but I definitely did afterwards where you're like, and even sometimes now I'm like, what the fuck am I even doing? Like I'm in a job that like I don't hate my job by any means. My job is okay, but like I'm not changing the world. And like when you're younger, you're like, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to change the world and I'm going to be amazing. And like your parents are always like, you can do anything. And then you're grown and you're like, what is the fucking point? Like,
I
but I
guess.
feel like I didn't really have that realization until like after university of like, oh, this is just it. This is life and this is what I'm doing, I guess. Like it's weird, but
See,
that
I
was
don't
more of
know,
an
like,
adult thing for me.
I guess I just like, again, like I wasn't super happy in high school, but like university, I think really clicked for me. And then obviously when I met my husband, like we sort of grew up together. Like we've been together since I was 19 going on 20. So
Hmm.
like, I don't know, I guess I never felt like that. And like
Yeah.
I'm doing a job that I've always wanted to do.
Hmm.
And so like I don't know, I don't know. Maybe like before I was like getting full-time work all the time, and
Yeah.
I was like a supplement substitute teacher, like I felt a little bit like, oh, like is this going to be my life? Like
Yeah.
not having a full-time job. But, you know, since I've been getting full-time work like a few years ago, and now like having a, being permanent in the school I'm at, it just changes my outlook on my job. And like
Yeah.
I'm really happy with, so I've never, I'm just really happy with my job, and like I get to do something that I've always wanted to do. So I don't know, I've just never had that like what am I doing with my life moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
No, I get that. I just like it just I'm like, how is this how is this what life is? It just, I don't know. It's like when you're a kid and you look at adults and you're like, they know everything. And they don't. Nobody knows anything. We're all just running around with our heads
yeah.
chopped off and we're all just idiots. Like that realization type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting real deep.
We are.
Existential things right now. But yeah. So, any other thoughts on the book as a whole?
Um, I liked it. I don't know if it'll be one that I read again though.
Yeah.
Like it's very like it's a little bit depressing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if it'll be one that I'll pick up again, because it just generally does not make me feel, it doesn't make me feel good and happy. It makes me just feel
Yeah.
kind of sad.
Yeah. Which is kind of what we
So,
were talking about before with our escapism and like
yeah.
what we read books. The reason we read books is not generally to feel upset.
Yes.
Um, I think that this book is a book that most teenagers need to read, especially if they're having a hard time in high school. Like I do think that like this book can make you feel less alone. Like
Yeah.
if you're not feeling great, and I wish I had have found it when I was in high school type of thing. And like I'll probably give it to my niece when she's 16. Ugh, 16. I can't imagine her being 16. Too much. Only 5 years away though. Ugh,
Vomit.
gross. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's like, I think it can make you feel less alone too. Like it does have its sad stuff, but like I more so take the like, you can get past this. Like
Yeah.
high school is just a blip of time in your life and it doesn't matter. And like, I think that part of it is obviously a thumbs up for me.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
Anyway.
Okay, so that wraps up Solitaire for this month and this week. So if you want to get in touch with us, and let us know what you thought about this episode or any of our episodes, or if you have any book suggestions for us, you can email us at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com, and be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at coffeeandcoread.
So next week we're going to be starting a new book because it is March. Yay. And we're going to be doing Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, it's the second book in Throne of Glass series. And I obviously, if you've been around at all, love that series the best. So I'm super pumped. We're going to be reading chapters 1 to 10. So if you follow along, make sure you read that before you come. And if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you find our content. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you on the next page.